So, welcome back. So we'll discuss little bit about the Ngöndro preliminary practice of the mandala offerings. Um, and mandala offering is one of the most powerful way to accumulate merit, and it's something that anyone can practice, whether you have a lot of resource or not, whether you are rich or poor, you know. Um, you don't need a lot of resource to create the merit, to the practice of such as offering of the mandala, so it's very, very, anyone can practice, anytime, anywhere. And it's one of the most powerful, it's mentioned that it is one of the most powerful way to accumulate merit. Mm. And it's so powerful way to accumulate merit, it's mentioned. Adisha, even at his age when he was very old, he continued to practice that every day. And there is a story of one of the Katamba master, Gomboba. He was meditating, and Domdemba, came to visit. Domdemba was the main disciple of Adisha in Tibet. And Tibet, Adisha has many, many students, and as I mentioned before, in India, and then later in Tibet. He spent his last 17 years in Tibet, and he passed away there, and he has many others great students, Kadamba masters. And Dondamba was his main kind of spiritual son, and a spiritual son. And Domdamba was just a lay practitioner, and many believe that he is a manifestation or reincarnations of Avalokiteshvara, Jeresik, anyway, and very, very, even though he was such an incredible great master in terms of learn, in terms of practice, realization, but extremely humble, one of those. There is a story of that, that he was invited to come and give teaching at one of the monasteries, and he was on the way to go and teach at the monastery. On the way, he met someone, who is almost like a little bit kind of drunk, and because he looks so very ordinary and act very ordinary. There was no impression that he was something special, externally. So that person who was with him asked him if he can carry some of his load. And Dondamba, without any hesitations, he helped to carry some of the loads that he was carrying. And later, he even asked him to carry his shoes, extra shoes. Dumdema, without any hesitation, he carried his shoes, and they just went. And as they were coming closer to the monasteries, there were a lot of monks and lay people practicing line up to greet him, with the kata scarf in the line. A lot of people. And the person with the Dumdema said, oh, some High Lama or someone must be coming, everyone's greeting. Never in his mind imagine it was him. So he said, wow, so many people are greeting, and here it must be some teacher coming soon. And Domdema very quietly, actually they are here for greeting for me, you know. And then that person got very embarrassed, he ran away. Uh, you know, so such is his kind of. So there are many stories like this. He never kind of show or never kind of acted that he was something very special, very high lama, high practitioner, high scholars, very, very. And so if no one knew him before you met, they would just think he's just another simple, ordinary person. Um, such. But I think also I heard that he's also very strong in some areas. There's a story. I haven't uh, seen myself in any of the text itself, but His Holiness shares, and His Holiness must have kind of read in some others, or maybe shared by some other teachers of his teachers. You know that when you take full ordination, there are a few different traditions. Few main kind of at the moment in time. I think there are mainly four different traditions, slightly different. Some are more strict, some of them a little bit more lean. You could what you call less lenient. Some are more strict and some are more lenient. The tradition we have in Tibet is more strict, and that is the tradition that was brought by Chandarakshita. He was the first master in around 7th, 8th century who came and who established the first monastery, Samye monastery, and who helped to build the first monasteries, and who helped to establish the monastery, um, and also the section on translation, meditations, study group, both ordained, and he also gave the first ordinations for the first monks in Tibet. So the tradition he followed, or that the tradition he received, the Shandirashida also he received, in which he gave was a little more strict lineage and tradition one. Adishas seem to have his ordinations from which he received the lineage, and which was a different tradition, which is more a little bit lenient. And the story is that Adisha was asked to give ordinations, and I think he accepted, but Domdeva stopped him from doing that. Uh, and because of that, because the lineage is more lenient, and Domdeva understood Tibetan people, and he said, if it doesn't work here with the people's mindset. It has to be more strict. If it's too lenient, then they wouldn't be able to preserve well. And so, because the people's culture mindset, he knew, because Aditya, of course, come from India, so probably, and so Domdemba kind of stopped him from uh, giving that tradition. So therefore, that is why Tibetan lineage is still there, more kind of strict, that come through Shantirakshita, that lineage. So from that, again, you kind of see Damdamba when it comes to that, then he's also quite strong. even with his guru. Yeah. Even with his guru, he didn't he didn't because he was thinking more of the effect of that for the longer generations, long term, because of the mindset of the Tibetan peoples, so it is more better to have the more strict versions than the linear versions. So anyway, that is. Oh, why did I say Domdemba? Because I was talking about one time Gomboba was meditating and Domdemba kind of came and saw, and then he saw the mandala set of the Gomboba there, a little bit kind of dusty. And then he said, "Oh, your mandala set is a little bit dusty." And then Gomboba said, "Oh, I was meditating I was distracted in meditation and I didn't have time and I didn't do the mandala." And then Domdemba said, "Do you think Adisha's meditation is less than you? You know, Adish, our guru Adishas has much more profound meditations and deeper meditation, but even with his that kind of ability and high realization and all this great deep meditation, he still never stopped doing mandala. He still continued to practice the mandala, and so then after that, then Gombowa got very inspired and encouraged, and so it says that he continued to then do mandala without at least once every day, without break since then. And then it is later then he have realizations, again the realization come through, again the support. Of course there's a meditation, but at the same time the combining the practice of accumulation, merit, and purification. That is another, you can see the importance of that. The comment Domdeva made and Adisha his own examples, and even one of my teachers, the present, not present now, I think he has few days ago, he kind of resigned from that. Gandhatiba, the very Gandhatiba is the leader of the Gelug lineage. He's the highest, His Holiness is more kind of all the lineage, and then each lineage have their own kind of spiritual leaders. And Gandhatiba is the spiritual leader of the Gelug lineage. And mm, and he's same age as His Holiness, 89. And even in his late 80s, when I went to visit him in Serra, you know, every morning he was doing practice mandala. Every morning I went to visit him quite a few times, and every time when I visited him, he was doing those practice. Again, one of the greatest scholar, philosopher, practitioner, expert in both Tantra, Sutra in our times. So again, they see the importance of that. That is why they still continue to do the practice. So that is a little bit on. In mandala, there are 37 hips of mandala, which is the, normally the mandala offering, the extensive that we do. It started from Sakya, but and then there is 25 hip, 23 hips. And the most shorter verse, the short mandala that Sashipurgi is the seven hips. Um, so again, there are many versions, longer version, 37 hips, which is when we do the long one, most time we do that. Then a little bit shorter than that, 25 hips. And then a little bit shorter than 23 hips. And in some, they say Lam Tsongkhapa, when he did the mandala, um, at Waka Chulung as part of his um, preliminary practice as Ngöndro, after he has been advised by the Menjushiri, according to 23 versions. But of course, 37 is even better if you do. And then I've only been to Tibet once, and we tried to go that places, but they didn't give us permit to go. When Lam Tsongkhapa did his Ngöndros, his place called Waka Chulung, and we don't know why we were not given permit, but we were not given permit to visit, so we didn't go. But people who have visited, there's a stone, still there we can visit, and it's hollow. And Lama Tsongkhapa made offering of the mandala on a stone, uh, mm. So when you do the Ngöndro, 100,000 mandala offerings, of course, most time you do the short one, the 7 hips. But it's good to begin the session, how many ever session you do, 1 session, 2 session, 3 session, 4 sessions a day. The first one is good to do the longer version, 37, and then you try to do the short one, as many as possible. And when you end, then again it will be good to end with a longer version if you have time. Is so again when you do any of the Ngöndro, any of those 9 Ngöndros, it's good, as I mentioned before, the preliminary even for that can be very extensive, middle and short. Like Lama Sopa Rinpoche normally advise, to do the first sessions, Lama Chopa, so that is quite long, so even you cannot do the Lama Chopa, which is longer versions, you could do the Ngandel Hakema, Lama Tsongkhapa's Guru Yoga of 100 days. That is shorter. And even you can't do it, at least, is refuge in Bodhicitta. With the refuge in Bodhicitta motivations, you do refuge in Bodhicitta. Then four immeasurable. There's a longer version, shorter versions, and you can do, again, at least if you cannot have time to do the longer, shorter versions. Longer versions, may all sentient beings, how wonderful it will be, all sentient beings' happiness. May they have happiness. May I lead to happiness. And Guru Deity, please bless me to do that, and you do that all 4, but shorter than may all sentient beings happiness and cause of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and cause of suffering. May all sentient beings never be separate from happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimities that is free from attachment to friends and anger, hatred to enemies. So that is the shorter version. So you can do after refuge and bodhicitta, then the 4 immeasurable, and then it will be nice to do the 7 limb again. At least you do the shoulder with seven, one line to each. I reverently prostrate to the Buddha. I offer, you know, I make offering of, actually arrange and immediately I confess all my negativities and I rejoice in the virtues of all. I request to turn the wheel of Dharma. I request to live until the samsara ends. I dedicate all virtues to the enlightenment. So it's a short. It's 7. And then then you can start whatever practice, whatever Ngöndro, whatever practice you do. So this will be kind of like the kind of minimum kind of preliminary before the actual start of whatever Ngöndro or practice you do. If you want a more extent, you can always add more, into that. Other practice, you can do Lamrim, whether it's a foundation of all good qualities, or whether it's the experience songs of the Lamrim by Lama Tsongkhapa, or whether you can do three principal aspects of the path, any of them. So they all, at least with you can. So again, it depends on how extensive you want to do and time and all of that. You don't have to feel overwhelmed by all of that. Sometimes when we read book led by Lama Zopa Rinpoche, you can feel a little bit overwhelmed because Rinpoche has added so many there, and then it could take almost 2 hours just to do the whole preliminary, even before the actual ones. But you don't have to be overwhelmed with that. There are parts that when you have time, you can do. When you don't have time, then you don't have to do all of that. Mm, yes.
Geshe-la, for the preliminary practice, is that like, say you start the mandala Ngöndro tomorrow, do you do it tomorrow morning, or do you do it every day that you do the mandala practice, the preliminary practice?
If you start as a Ngöndro, then whenever you decide to start, then you start and you start counting from there. The one that I just mentioned. No, every day, every day, and in the beginning of every sessions. Or at least the first sessions. At least the first sessions. Mm. Yeah. So at least you do the first session. Again, it depends on individual time. Like when you really take time to do, then you can do. Like, yeah. And like, for example, when I do retreat, since I cannot morning, I start Lama Chopa, but I cannot start all session with Lama Chopa. But one of my teachers, Gandhi Lobsang Tenzin Rinpoche, he advised, it's good to start the Guru Yoga with all sessions. So shorter version of Guru Yoga is Mixema. So the second, third, fourth, then I do the Mixema, instead of the whole Guru Yoga, whether it's a Laman Chopa or 100 Deity, but just do the, of course you do the refuge and the Bodhicitta and the 4 immeasurable in that, but also Mixema with the Guru Yoga. And then, each session I change the Lamrim prayer. One session I do foundation of all good quality. One session and I do the three principle of the path. One session I do the if it's 4 sessions, then one session I do the spring experience songs of the Lamrim. And of course, in Lama Chopa, there is already Lamrim meditation there or practice there. So that those are suggested, but it doesn't mean that, if you don't do then it doesn't count. Do you get it? It doesn't mean that if you don't do then it doesn't count. It doesn't mean that, so everything is kind of adjusting to some degree, to yourself. So yeah, I was talking about starting with 37, and then you do the short ones, the 7 hip. In some commentaries, it says the short one, the Sashipyogi, that 4 line with the verses. In some, they think it could be this verse might be verse that come from, in the Prajnaparamita Sutra. There is descriptions of the Bodhisattvas who's crying all the time, and then his teacher Chopak, Bodhisattva Chopak. And so in that they say it is the Bodhisattva Tatu Ngui who's always crying when he offered the mandala to the Bodhisattva Chopak. That was the kind of these verses come from there. So anyway, and also there's traditions. Also, well, not tradition, but some teachers, suggest you could combine the refuge with also with the mandala too. You could combine refuge with the prostration. You can combine refuge with the mandala. So in mandala, then each time you do the refuge and the bodhicitta verses, and then you do the short mandala verses. So by the time you finish 100,000 mandala, you also finish 100,000 refuge and the bodhicitta too. And sometimes it's helpful because with that it also gives you a little bit more space to visualize the mandala when you are doing quickly. So that is again, yeah, that could be that is also how it could be done as well. Possibility of. When I did, because I have more time, so I took it kind of time. So I think every 50 or every 100, I did one long ones. Every short 50 or 100, I used to do the one long ones. But again, that is when you have more times and luxury of the time, then that is. But as I mentioned, it all depends on your schedules, your time, and everything. So everyone doesn't have same, of that. So this one, I'm going to kind of do the demonstrations of the mandala. With this table, it is a little bit kind of, because it's No, tray. No, it should be okay. So yeah, you need to have some cover, okay, for the mandala. So you can make yourself, or you can buy. This is normally where the book covers, you can buy those book covers. This is a book cover you can use for that. You can buy in market, or you can make yourself. So this is just to kind of hold it. So, and you spread out this one, and this is the mandala set. You know, some have 3 rings, some have 2 rings. You know, this one has 3 rings, and the mandala set. The mandala set. They say, if one can afford, and if possible, then you know it can be made out of gold, can make out of silver, can make out of different. Um, and of course, if you cannot afford, then it can be made out of wood, or it can be made out of anything. Lama Tsongkhapa did on the rock. And so again, it's not like must, but again, like because you are offering, so if quality is good, as is good, better. That's what. And also size-wise, the bigger it is, better it is. But also on practical level, when you are doing long, when it's heavy and big, then you can have uh, with your risk. You know, I had much bigger one, and then after some time, after you have been long time, and then your wrist can hurt a little bit, so you have to take care of that. So I think uh, this size seems to be quite good size, not too small, not too big, but sometimes you can see smaller than this, and of course much more bigger than this too. So in terms of yeah, and those of course you can, and some people, some of them are silver plated. Some of them really made from silver and then gold plated. Some of them. So again, you can find different in the market. And then the grain here, this Stephen, this there's a rice. It could be rice. It could be grain. You can use grain, other barley, like that, or you can use rice too. And then also there are the precious stones. You can have precious stones mixed with that. You know, if you want to have all gold, even better. Small gold, diamond, silver, you know, lazuli, coral, pearls, precious gemstone. Otherwise we can also buy the fake ones and and deceive the Buddhas. You know? Yeah. We can deceive them and say, we can offer the fake diamond and say it's a true diamond. No, no, it's just a represent, symbolize and represent, and it helps your visualizations. But of course, if there's a real one, is even better. If someone has and it can afford, it is even better. But like it's, um, you know, and when it's all stone, then again it becomes too heavy. It becomes too heavy. Even though, so that's why grain, having some grain help, and And I like the idea, but it is, I've seen people in Bodh Gaya and some rice, and they do the mantala, and after each of day, then they offer the rice to people who are homeless or people who need, So they change every day. So probably they buy a sacks of rice and they use for the day, and then the next the end of the day, then they. I kind of like that idea, but of course, in some places it doesn't. Um, I've seen some people doing, and I thought it was so. Anyway, so that is in terms of basically whatever grain we use or whatever precious stone or semi-precious stone, whatever you use it. When we visualize is really those all these precious gems that we are offering, full of those precious gems. Okay. And then at the very beginning, for the first time, you try to clean all of that, all mandala, everything you wash and clean with the saffron water. At the very beginning, you can clean whatever you need to clean, and then at the end, with the kind of saffron waters, um, and then also the grain, you wash them, you know, um, and then dry them, and then again you can kind of um, soak in a saffron water. You don't need so much water, but quite kind of strong. So then the grain become almost like yellow with the saffron. The rice or whatever grain you use. So again, it's kind of offering of the saffron as well, together. It's a medicinal, it is a frequency, and saffron is something special offering. So again, you also try to do that. Mm. So I think so that is more in terms of the grain, and sometimes you can put some coins as well, like making money offerings, represent the money offerings as well. Sometimes and other whatever something you feel is find something precious, valuable, you can in the offerings you can add in offerings. So at the very beginning, when you start with the left hand, you grab some grain, okay, and hold with this one. So again, the idea is you don't hold with empty hand. Is something kind of inauspicious. So you want to hold with something full. So you hold some grain and hold in your left hand, and then hold this, and then you grab some grain, and then you throw, and you push away grains as many as possible, and it is symbolized, and you also visualize clearing all the negative karma, all the afflictive emotion, all the delusions. So pushing away all of them, cleaning, clearing. So that is what you visualize. That's what you think while you are doing that, you know, on the clockwise. And especially where if we are dealing with certain maybe emotions in our case at a certain point in our life, sometimes we are dealing with fear, sometimes we are dealing with anger, bitter, whatever. You can even visualize kind of clearing all of that. And then how many ever you do with this, what do you call this part? Wrist is palm or wrist, heel of the palm. Okay. So you do that, and then you do anti-clockwise 3 times. 3 times, and it is to kind of receive and requesting the blessing of enlightened body, speech, and mind. The other one's pushing all the negativities. This is kind of calling inside. And so it is to request the blessings of the enlightened body, speech, and mind. So you do 3 times. So then Om Benza Bhumi Ahungs. Om Benza Bhumi Ahung, then you put a little bit on there. Om Benza Bhumi Ahung. On the Segisa. Om Benza Reke Ahung. Chi Chagre Gipore Usos. So in the beginning, there is the first the vast the ground, and then the Vasara fence. Vasara fence. After you put, you go one round. Om benza bumi om benza bumi on je seki sa om benza re. Chi chare yu ko ye usu, and in the middle re yabo re ra mount mero re yabo re ra shar lu ba po lo zambu ling no pa lang che chang da me ni lu dan lu ba nga ya da nga ya shen yen den da lam jo da me ni da me ni ki da rinpo che ye re o pa sang ge shen de je yo pa momo pa ye lo do. So that is, I will go for the English letter, okay? It's the Mount Meru and the 4 continents and 8 subcontinents, and the individuals' enjoyment of 4 continents. And then next rings, and next ring is the 7 precious and the precious vase. Kolo Rinpoche, Nagu Rinpoche, Tsumo Rinpoche, Lambo Rinpoche, Langbo Rinpoche, Dao Rinpoche, Makwe Rinpoche, Techen Pa Ye Pumba, Techen Pa Ye Pumba, and then the 8 goddess, offering goddesses, and then the sun and the moon and the banner and the parasol. Yeah. Ke ma tama ma lu ma ngara ma medoma, tuku ma nasa ma tichama, ni ma ndawa Rinpoche do chole number gave gyatsen. And then in the middle, then all the wealth of the human and divine. So all are running away. Usu lada me pozo sa ma tao me ba changxi dong wa ting za wa de yuba che ba le lama. Kaba dun ya lama lo sang do je sa dong wa chen mo da zo ko da che ba nam la sing ga mo ju xu zhe de shen. Shen ne gan da zo do wa nam ga ta da nian be sam je tam je la tu za wa chen be ko ne chen je la do so sa je be ge jong chen me do da ri ra ben shen yin da gen ba de sang ge shen do me de wa. Do gu nam da shen la jo ba sho je zo la me ku ze ra ben je. Dong ga le chu Losa tempe dome sasonge doe muse tato genjo nam guru rana mente lagane yataya mi. So then you push, it's like offering to the, okay? Mm,
Ask a question.
yeah.
If it's too heavy to hold the mandala, can they place it down?
If it's too heavy, then you can kind of take the support of your thigh or something just to hold like that. But
Can I
if
just place it on the?
yeah, if it is still that is, then you can place it. If it's really kind of having a effect on your wrist or something really is really painful and something, then of course, then you can do that. But this one, because you are not doing the long all the time, it shouldn't be a problem because then you are doing mostly. So this is at the very beginning, and we'll come. And then when you actually you do the Ngöndro, then you do the 7 hips, the short one. No, the one I just do 37 hip. Yeah, and then when you do sa shi peki chungshi me do dang ri ra lin shen yin den ye ba de dang ge shen de me de wa do gu nam da shing la cho ba sho yi dam gu ru ra na me da la kan ya ta ya me. And if you are doing a refuge, then you sang ge so dang so ge so nam la chang ju ba do da ne ge da ge ji so ge be so nam ge do la pen che sang ge ru ba sa shi peki chungshi me do dang ri ra lin shen yin den ye ba de sang ge shen de me dogu namda shing la choba so yi dam guru rana menda la kani yata sange chodang sogi sonam la chanchu padu dani kyabsum che dagi jiba gebe sonam ki dola penche sange do sa shi peki chungshe me do dam re rao lin shen yin dan gyamba de sange shen do me do dogu namda shing la choba so yi dam guru rana menda la kani yata sange chodang sogi sonam la chanchu padu dani kyabsum che dagi jiba gebe sonam ki dola penche sange do ba sa shi peki chungshe me do dam re rao lin shen yin dan gyamba 상계 신도 미도 누구 남다 생라 저거 저이 남 고르나 맨다 라간이야다. Having a fun. I think the children will like this one. Yes, that is 7 hips. So yeah, I will come in English, so then you will get a little bit more clarity. At the moment, I did in Tibetan because I, I've not memorized in English. Yes.
Geshe-la, if you accidentally spill something on the ground while you're doing this, like say some of the gems or the rice doesn't fall in your apron, but it falls on the floor, are you supposed to put it back in the mandala dish, or do you put it aside and don't
Yeah,
use it again?
it's so precious. Then you want to take it. You don't want to. No, no. It's something. Then you can just clean and then clean and then you can put it. If something like grain rice, you can kind of change it. But like it is something like stone or something, you can clean up later and then use it. Mm. Okay. So. Mhm.
When you do the visualization there, you're saying Sajipoki and you're visualizing just the 7 things, not
No, you visualize the whole thing. But in terms of hip, you just do the
just do
7 hip. But in terms of visualizing, you visualize the whole mandala.
and no Buddhas. You're not seeing the Buddhas. You're not visualizing them.
The
refuge
Buddha you have already visualized in front of
Front
you
of-
before, and you just feel they are there.
they're still there.
They are there, yeah, until you finish your session in the last evenings, and then at the last evening of the session, they can dissolve into yourself. You can visualize the refuge, made it feel dissolve into yourself.
So you're holding 2 visualizations while you're doing this. The Buddhas there and then the mountains. And
Yeah. You don't have to visualize so clearly. It's like you visualize at the very beginning, and it's there, and you just think it's there, and try to keep as
much as you can.
and yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah. Again, I think each of those hip, which represent, as I mentioned about the Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the 8 subcontinents, each precious enjoyment of each of the continents, the 7 precious, such as precious minister, precious king, precious wheel, precious horse, precious elephant, and precious queen, and the precious vase, all of them, and then so what they represent or what that, then you can. I will not go each of them, but you can read more You know, you can find in the FMT website. You can type in mandala offerings, and there's extensive teaching from Lama Zopa Rinpoche, you know, what each of them are made out of, you know, what kind of gem, precious gem they are made out of, what are they functioning, how each, what of those functionings, each of them has qualities, you know, different quality, different functioning of that. So if you study that, and you, even though you don't recollect each of them clearly each all the time, but you try to recollect and try to offer that. So then it become, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Is it important to speak out loud? Like, what if you're sitting in an airport and, like, I think you said some people do it at the airport. Do they verbalize what they're doing, or do they just say it like silently to themselves?
Yeah, you have to have the loudspeaker, and then everyone can hear that. No, we don't want to disturb other people's minds, so we do quiet. Yeah. You know, and I don't know mandala offerings, whether you want to do in the airport, you know, that might seems quite. I mean, it depends on individual. You know, some people wouldn't mind, and they might just be interested in seeing what are they doing. Some people mind might be disturbed. Who knows? But anyway, so, but again, some people wouldn't mind, and they would do it. You know.
I've heard that with like the 35 confessions, you're supposed to speak it out loud because then you purify your speech. So with mandala, it doesn't matter. We don't have to speak it out loud.
Even 35, you don't have to speak very loud. You know, like all the prayers, mantras, practice. There are three ways of doing. Like when you are reciting mantra, three ways of reciting mantras: loud and almost like whispering, where you hear it but other people doesn't hear it. And then mental recitation. You don't even recite with your speech word, mentally reciting. So there are three ways of reciting the mantras. And so again, it depends on your, so that can be similar like for the prayer too. When you recite loudly, it's to, when you recite the prayers or mantra loud, when other sentient beings, animals or other beings, when they hear it, then they have, you know, they have the imprint from that. So that is to help that. You know, when you do practice for yourself, it's most time when you're retreat, it's almost like whispering, you know. You can hear it, but other person cannot hear it. And then one of other is mentally reciting. You don't say, but you in your mind you recite Om Mani Padme Hum Mani, and that is really a way to keep your concentrations. If you lose concentration, you cannot recite Om Mani Padme Hum mentally. You can recite verbally, you know, while my mind is traveling all over the world. I can express Om Mani Padme, Om Mani Padme, Om Mani Padme, and my mind is all over the world, you know, in New Mexico, you know, in Nepal, you know, in Europe, you know, everywhere, you know, and while I'm reciting Om Mani Padme, Om Mani Padme. But when you're reciting Om Mani Padme mentally, there's no chance of being able to get distracted and at the same time able to recite that. So you really have to concentrate. And so, you know, again, to really to help concentration, and in those cases, you know, again, there are three ways of kind of reciting the mantras, you know, and so same can be said of the prayers, you know. There's a benefit of reciting loudly, especially if others doesn't disturb. then they hear it and they have the imprint, positive imprint from that. Of course, we don't want to disturb. Even they have positive imprint, but if we disturb their mind and they get upset and angry, then when you balance the imprint, positive imprint, as well as the disturb anger and how much virtue they might destroy with that and all of that, then is something to think about, So we'll try as much as possible not to make someone upset and angry and disturb. So in those cases, doing quietly, So sometimes when I have, when I don't have time to do, then sometimes I do my practice in plane or on airport, and I just do quietly in my mind, and sometimes as though it's just like reading a book, for the other people might think I'm just reading a book, but I'm doing my practice and quietly, and so so.
The mandala, when you in the airport, do you?
No,
do you-
mandala I never did in the airport, but
if,
yeah.
If we were to do it, can we just like do this? If we have a scarf or something, we can just keep our hands like this. Can this hand mudra, this gesture here work? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Now we are living there.
Like we're living in the airport. Yeah, or any other public place, Can we do the hand mudra instead of having the whole mandala set? Does that count towards our Ngöndro or no?
And probably that wouldn't count.
Are you being serious?
Yeah. Yeah.
It won't count?
And I don't think so, but I don't know.
Okay.
No, I've never thought, nobody asked, and I've never asked my teacher, and yeah. If yeah, if that can count, then probably we don't need this one, because again, also there is what did I say? I think maybe it might have been Paponga Rinpoche's Liberation Palm, where he mentions there are certain practitioners or certain teachers or certain things. Oh, you can do everything in mind. You don't need all these external things. External offering of mandala or external offering of water ball. All in you can do in mind. But that is only for very highly realized beings. For our beginners, we need those. For someone very highly realized beings who have very strong concentration, very strong mind, then for them probably maybe they don't need that. Even in mandalas, when we took the initiations, from what kind of mandala, there are 3-4 different mandalas, One mandala is Zen mandala, you take a lot of time creating that. That you use that as the basis for taking the initiations. And sometimes they have just, dimensional mandalas that is already created. You use that. Sometimes they use just drawing or pictures of mandala, and you use that as the object for the visualization and practice, the basis for that. And then there is also of the mandala that is created in your mind. You don't need external. The teachers create in their mind. The student is also able to visualize that as it is. So in those cases, again, in that cases, both teacher and both students are highly developed. In such cases, then those external become less important because they have the mental ability to do a lot of things that ordinary people cannot do. And for that, they don't need those external things. But for beginner, we do need those, And so similarly, I would think that also is better.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Geshe-la, so if we're counting the the mandala offerings towards completing the Ngöndro, is it better to start them when we know, like, we won't be traveling or have kind of any interruption, and like basically be able to do it every day for a period to get it completed?
Yeah, that will be the case. For example, if you have to travel and maybe it is not possible to carry and do that because of situations, maybe then you can continue to do the practice of mandala, at least even with hand gesture and that, but you don't count them. And when you come back home, I think you can count them, So you don't count those, But instead, you don't want to have the interruption of offering of the mandala. You want to continue it every day. And so while you are out and something you cannot do, you still continue to do the mandala quietly in that way, without without exciting your other friends, families who might not be exciting their mind. But you continue to do your mandala quietly with but you don't count that. And then, but when you come, then when you actually offer, then you can count that. Yeah. So yeah, because I was talking about those different heaps and what are they made of, what are the qualities of each of them, what is the function of each of them, So you try to learn and study more from other sources, As I said, you can from Yapimdi, you can get from Lama Zopa Rinpoche's teaching there. Yeah, I think Rinpoche has much more detail than some others as well, because Rinpoche has add up his own little bit of suggestions, advices, instructions as well. Also, the mandala, the way we offer here, these 37 hips, is based on some of the teachings that you find in, Indian Master Basabandhu in his Abhidhamma Koshas, in mandala, in Kalachakra mandala, the descriptions of the cosmology and the descriptions of the cosmology in Basabandhu's Abhidhamma Kosha, they might not, they have slightly different, in some they are slightly different. And of course there is some kind of debate, you can say, debate or discussions, whether there is actually really universe as is described in the mandala or not. There is even among the Buddhist practitioners, whether some things there is, just that we cannot see it. Certain beings have certain ability; they might be able to see all the whole universe as is described in this mandala. And then there are some other Buddhist scholars, practitioners who probably not necessarily there is a kind of physical universe as exactly like as you described here, but it is a method for us to mentally create and then make something very special and then offer it, So it doesn't have to be that, it doesn't need to be there in actually physical world like that, because practice is becoming creative with yourself and creating your own kind of special kind of that kind of universe with that kind of incredible special qualities, gems and that, and then to be able to offer it, So therefore, even there is no such exactly physical universe like that, there's no contradiction to practice it, because it's even like when we are doing other offerings, we have whatever offering arranged, but in our mind we visualize whole space filled with those offerings, and we offer it, and that is training our mind, visualizing, and that, and so therefore there is no contradictions or nothing wrong, even there's not exactly same as is described, to practice that. Okay. So that is, again, we have to, it's helpful to understand that, because sometimes then why are we doing it if there's no real world, like something like that? Sometimes we can kind of, and then we can again started to have doubt about the practice still, because we take it too seriously and so literally in that way, then that can be again. So I just wanted to kind of also that came in my mind. So according to this one, according to this description, then yeah, there are 4 continents, 8 subcontinents. There are other human beings on other continents. We are not only human beings in this universe, this world. In those descriptions, the other human beings in other continents are more beautiful, more attractive, more intelligent than us. Not the way we human beings in this world, what you call, paint them in the movies, ugly and, blue, green with a big ear, but in those descriptions, they describe, actually they are, they live longer, they are more, some of them much more beautiful, handsome, attractive, better world in terms of external things. But when it comes to the spiritual world, then this is the best it describes, because our world is more balanced. There's suffering, but not totally overwhelmed by too much sufferings. And there's some kind of enjoyment or pleasure, samsaric pleasure, but it's not totally that. So that kind of help us to be reminded and keep in practice. In some of those, then there is no suffering or gross suffering, or then they get distracted, and then they feel they don't need the spiritual. They don't feel they need to practice the Dharma. They don't need to practice the spiritual. So for our spiritual growth, then our this is described as the best suitable. And also, before I forget, one of the things, also when we practice the mandala, even when I'm making one mandala, offering one mandala, in our hand is one mandala, but again, like all other offering, you visualize like Saman Vadra offering. From one mandala, manifest 2, from 2, 4, and then whole space filled with mandala, full mandala as number as atoms there is, and then making those offering to each and every the Buddhas of 10 directions and 3 times, with each time we offer. So again, if you are able to keep that visualization, even though you are offering in one mandala at each time, but you create the merit as offering that numberless mandala with your visualizations and your thinking that way. Also, one of the advice teaching they give is, when we make the offering mandalas, there is the whole universe as it is visualized, as big as that. So, but that whole universe of described mandala hasn't become small as like this, Northeast have become, but still they give an example. If you are looking for, of course, airplane is a new example, okay? But if you look from airport, you see the whole place, But from what you're looking, a very small place, very small window, but you are able to see the whole things. Same way it is, this is like the window, but you are able to see the whole universe as described. So that is as big as there, So again, that also that is okay. So the 37 hips. I will just go through it quickly and then. So I have to remember the English. Let us offer the Buddha field, Om Vajra ground, Ahum, mighty golden ground. So that is the first one, first hip, mighty golden, Om Vajra fence, Ahum. Outside it is encircled by the surrounding walls. So you do one time, that is Vajra fence. Okay. At the center, which is Sumura, king of the mountain. So then in the center one. The eastern continent, Videha. So east, where does east start? There are two. East can start from your side or this side, and then clockwise. Okay. So when you are doing the offering, it starts from here, where you offer. If you are doing the mandala to receive blessing, in some cases we do blessing, then the east start from here and go. So at the moment it's for offerings because Ngöndro, part of the offering creating merit, so the east start here. So this the eastern continent, Videha. Then southern, which is ours, Zambudeva. And then the western, Godani, and the northern, Guru, and then subcontinent, Deha and Vidya. So then this is the east, so then is from here to here, left to right, two subcontinents, and that goes with all others. Deha and Videha. Kamara and Aparana Kamara. Tata and Udara Mandharan. Guru and Kurawadi. So these are the Mount Meru, the 4 continents, and 8 subcontinents. So 11 is 11. 8 plus 4 is 12, and Mount Meru 13. And then for enjoyment of each of those continents. So then again you start with the east. Precious mountain, the wish granting jewel, the wish fulfilling cow, and the unplugged harvest. So then the next. And then precious wheel, again starting from the east, precious jewel, precious queen, precious minister, and then in four directional, and then what is the other called intermediate directional, again starting from the east. Precious wool, precious jewel, precious queen, precious minister, precious elephant, precious horse, precious general, and precious treasure bath. And then last one, lady of grace, lady of garland, lady of song, lady of dance, lady of flowers, lady of incense, lady of lamps, lady of perfume. Then the sun and moon go from left to right. The sun and the moon. And then precious pearl and the precious banner of victories. Again, that one's, it depends on whether it's offering or whether it's receiving the, So then, and two of them, banner between all quarter. In the center, the most perfect riches of gods and human beings, with nothing missing, pure and delightful. So then you add more in the middle for that one, which symbolize. And if there's a little bit empty, you can have a little bit of that head up, and then to my glorious, holy, and most kind root and lineage gurus, in the particular Dedi Hoso Lamazongkhapa, king of sages, Mahavasradhara, and their divine retinue, I shall offer this as a Buddha field. Please accept them as compassions for the sake of my greater beings. Having accepted them, please, out of your great compassion, grant your inspiration to me and all Mother migrator beings as far as the limit of the space. And you can do the short one, Sashi, Pegi Jungshin method, Sangye Shindum, Dugu Namda Shingla Choba, Idam Guru, Rana Mendala Niyataya Mi. Okay. Then with the short one. Might have here short one. Short mandala offering. This crown anointed with the perfume, stone flower, adorn the Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and moon. I imagine this as Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Rana Mentala Niyataya. So seven hips are the Mount Meru in the center and the four continent and the four direction and the sun and the moon. So those are the four. When we say seven hips, those are the seven hips. Even though we put those seven hips, but in visualizing, you visualize the whole mandala. Okay. Whether you do 37 hip, whether you do 25 hip, 23, 7 hip, in terms of having a hip is less, but in terms of visualization, you try to think the whole mandala is there. And as also here it says, I imagine this a Buddha field and offer it. So what it means, this universe that we have imagined that with the mandala with seven 37 hips. We transform them, is ordinary universe, but then we transform it into something like celestial mansions, pure land, Buddha field, and then we offer it in our mind. Is we visualize that, and then in our mind we visualize into something like a Buddha field, pure land, and then we offer that. So therefore, what we are offering is that pure land. That is so. Yeah, so I think that is, and then as I mentioned before, then you end, if possible, with a one long one, and then dedications. And in the last session, then you do the. If you do more than one session, then in the end you do the longer dedication. Others you can do shorter dedications. Yeah, I think that is all in terms of. And then, I wanted to mention something before I forget. If it is, like as I said, everything is. If we can do it, it's great. If we cannot, then again, we try to. If when we do Ngöndro, when we finish the Ngöndro, any of those Ngöndro, any of the 9 or 4 or 5 Ngöndro you do, when you finish, then it would be nice to do. Also, that was the advice that I got from my teachers, and also you've seen some commentaries as well. It's best if you can do then chalk offerings that day to complete it after you finish it, before you close it with that Ngöndro. You can invite, if there is a teachers, monks, sanghas, invite them. You can invite other your friends. It's celebrating. Chalk is a celebration, Dharma celebrating. Feast, Dharma celebrate. So it's something that you have completed one of your big Dharma project, if you can say, of accomplishing one of those, completing one Ngöndro, then it is good to complete with that chalk offering and celebrating of that with the chalk offerings. Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question. So when it's the offering, where is the east? It's not right in front of you. It's
East is opposite of your
so it'd be in the
front.
the front. Okay.
Yeah.
And then at the last beat after the sun and the moon, then
So
it's
sun, moon is from left to right.
Right. And then the last ones are front.
When you're offering from your side to other side,
Right, okay.
because it's going that side
Thank you.
for the offering. And also I forgot, when you are doing the mandala for receiving the blessings, also when you take it, is come this way instead of that way. But normally we do for offering, so you can just do that way. Because offering is going out and blessings coming in, so therefore, in terms of where the east is, as well as when you dismantle the mandala, whether you dismantle from that side or this side. Yeah, and so, and even you cannot do the Ngöndro, of course it will be great if you can do, but even you cannot do the Ngöndro, still you can have mandala set, and whenever you do your practice, and when there is a mandala offerings, you could do that all the time, longer versions, shorter versions, whatever you do. So at least still you continue to integrate the practice of mandala in your everyday, and even somehow you find difficult to manage finding time to do all the Ngöndros, doesn't mean that you shouldn't because of that, then you shouldn't integrate practice in the mandala. You can always do once every day, integrating one of your practice. In one of your practice, there is a mandala offerings. So when there's the mandala offerings, and also yeah, yes. Now I'm in big trouble. And what was the other that was coming in my mind, and now simply escape away. Um, yeah, I was talking about even you cannot find at the moment, even you cannot manage to find time for Ngöndro, at least you can integrate the practice in the mandala, if not every day, whenever possible. If possible, every day, integrating, some of you are doing different practices, and then in part of that practice, there's a mandala offering, or there's a longer version, shorter versions. You can integrate that and get used to the practice and also practice. And if you find the opportunity, time, and everything in the futures, you have already done, it will be easier because you are more familiar with that practice. And even you cannot find the time and opportunity to Ngöndro, at least you can continue to the creating merit and integrate in your everyday life. So, and then these ones, again, you have seen this mandala gesture or posture, Again, it represents the middle one, Mount Meru, and these the four continents. So middle one is Mount Meru and the four continents. Again, that is, but you have to be careful. You might get a problem for showing your middle fingers.
Lynn has a question.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Geshe-la, for going through all this and giving us such practical advice. It's very helpful. Sometimes on pictures of altars, I see full mandala sets. Is that part of Ngöndro, or is it some other practice?
No, I think it's just like sometimes they just make offering a mandala permanently there, Maybe sometimes they might change once a year, or sometimes when lamas comes, maybe they might dismantle and then make new offering, the lamas offering, and then they just keep that for a year, sometime more than a year. So that is not really part of Ngöndro. It is just kind of someone made the offerings kind of permanently not permanently for long durations there. Yeah. And so a lot of people sometimes, because they cannot make mandala every day, some family, they just do it that way. Or at home. Also in the monastery, you can also see there. Yeah.
So Sina was trying to see so if you zoom, if you can.
Yeah, I don't know how. Maybe it might take a little time, like your two. I don't know how to say even. Pinky. You put this and you hold these two thumb with these first two, and then the last second two finger in the middle, and then last two you hold each other like that. Yeah. So Mount Meru and continent, the four continent. And sometimes also, when in the ceremony, sometimes they just might hold the bell, And that also symbolized the Mount Meru. So they just hold the bell as well. So again, you can be creative as well.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
So in Lama Zopa Rinpoche's commentary, there's 4 ways of mandala offerings with the inner, outer, sacred, and suchness. And I don't know if it's appropriate to ask, but for when we do the counting,
Counting is just the outer one.
Outer one.
Outer one.
So,
and if you want to add the inner, you can add it. The inner is offering was your object of attachments. Anger, ignorance, friend, enemy, strangers, all. So that is the inner. And then sacred mantra is you visualize different part of your body, different hips, and so that is something else in some Vajrayana practice, different part of your organ, different part of your body, you visualize the Mount Meru and then different parts of the continent and then the sun and those different. So is part of your body, and so that is kind of the secret. But again, I think the main one is we do the counting is the outer mandala, and that was one when you visualize, of course, when you offer the whole universe, including the continent that we live in, Zambudeva, southern, then of course we are offering ourselves, our wealth, our virtues, our possessions, everything. So again, it's learning to let it go and not get attached to any of them, not get attached to our possession, not getting attached to our body, not getting attached to ourselves, not getting attached to our virtues. So again, so is sometimes it's good to also specifically think that. Sometimes we might think, oh, I'm offering the whole universe, but not me, So because it's sometimes we might forget that we are part of that, and sometimes emphasizing that part can be helpful to remind ourselves that we are offering all of that, and in that way we are kind of also training our mind, learning our mind to let it go and not to grasp and hold on them too tightly. Yeah.
So, I guess this is, I like to actually advise troubleshooting practice, is because the practice is so active. It's challenging to keep the visualization, or even because it feels like everything's moving. So, especially if it's outer offerings, how maybe if you could kind of give a little bit more instructions of how to keep that visualization the whole time, like for an hour.
No, at the very beginning, when you do the long one, you try to visualize each of them with each hip, each different. And then after that, even you cannot visualize all of them, you know that it is there. It's same when we are training meditative concentrations independent on the image of the Buddha, At the very beginning of the session, you visualize details, clarity, and then you don't go to the clarity, even you don't have clear image, but just the shape or just the color of something. Buddha Shakyamuni is just yellow with little shape. Then you just keep that and you keep steady mind. If you go in detail, then you lose the steadiness. You cannot develop steadiness. And then clarity will come slowly with the time. And same here, at the very beginning, we try to have the visualizations of each of those here clearly. And then after you started practicing, when you start doing quickly and that with the short mandala, then you don't have to have clear visualizing each of them. You just in your mind, you know it all is there, and with 7 hip, you know those are there, and then all others included in that. The subcontinent, when you offer the continent, subcontinent is offered already. When continent is offered, the enjoyment of each of subcontinents are offered. So therefore, you know, so when you, and then in that way, you know that they are there, but you don't have to visualize all this very clearly each time. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So then we can do the dedications. Yeah. Mm. We can do short. Yeah. Yeah, we can do the short one. While you, if you want to offer the mandala, you can, but we can recite the shorter version. Yeah, anyone who come, you have to be good. Otherwise, you might, if you make a mistake, you are in trouble. No. Here, she can put here. Well, actually, everyone should be doing a prostration. Yeah, then you have to do 100,000. It's okay. Oh yeah, that's what I'm a distributor. Do we have 4 people? Yeah.
Okay.
Statue.
Okay. Om Saji Pagi Juk Ching Me Tu Tram Re Ra Bling Chi Ne Ne Gen Ba Di Sangye Jingdo Mekte Po Wa Ye Drogyo Nam Da Jingla Chuparjo Jetsun Lame Kuserapten Jing Nam Katrin Le Chuk Chuke Padang Lo sang ten pe ron me sa sung ki dro we mun sel tak tu ne gur shi idam guru mandala kam nayatayami. we do the dedication.
We had the Buddha blindfolded.
Yeah, the Buddha is a little cold here. It's whole covering like a sleeping bag. Kewadi Yu Da Lama Sangye Drukyune Drowa Chikyang Malupa Ne Yi Sala Gupashu Jangchuk Samchok Rinpoche Ma Gepa Nam Ge Guji Gepa Nam Pa Me Pa Yang Gong Ne Gong Du Pel War Shu. Long life prayer for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. The wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world. To the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. And a prayer for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that's never discouraged. Incomparably vulnerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss! Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of Bodhisattva of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for the fortunate disciples.
Everyone who is joining in person and also on Zoom, I think many of you are probably know, but this is the mandala offerings. The first one, you see the 5, so it represents the Mount Meru center and the 4 continents. And then we have the next, the Buddha, which represents the body. Then you have the next text, speech, and the next stupa, which represents the mind. So offering of body, speech, and mind. Offering of the universe and body, speech, and mind. So just those you are not aware or what do you think what's going on, just to give some idea. Okay.